Making my way downtown. Walking fast, faces passing them. We're going to Midspace!
Hey.
Oh, we're here!
Hello and welcome, everybody, to another Lore Dive episode of the Backwater Bastards.
It's a Lore Dive!
Watch
out!
And with me today, I have the illustrious Daniel Matthews.
Ooh, thank you.
Shiny.
And the even more illustrious Taylor.
More shiny.
And joining us, as always, we have the eminent, the distinguished, the acclaimed, the noted, the notable, the noteworthy, and the prominent DM Dick Dynamite.
The shiniest.
Thank you. So, guys, we're back here. We're doing another Lore Dive. This time, it is going to be about Midspace Station.
Midspace Station.
It's the setting where we started our adventures. It's the setting where, if you're up to date on the podcast, where our adventures have been taking place for the last little while. Sitting in the neutral space between three great empires is the bustling, lawless metropolis of Midspace Station. So when we talk about Midspace is a giant, planet-like, moon-sized space station in the dead center of the known galaxy.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Geographically, is it really the dead center of the galaxy? Not really, no. But geopolitically, it definitely is. It's right in between Wraith space, Terran space, and Synth space. And it's more or less in the center of that area. And it was initially built to be equidistant to all the capitals. Midspace is huge. And it is all kind of city. Large portions of that city are not looked after, not inhabited, but large portions of it are inhabited as well. There are millions of people living on Midspace.
Millions.
And although it's an entirely artificial structure, it is based on a core made of compacted trash and detritus and so on. So it doesn't have any sort of artificial gravity. It has actually been built upon a solid mass big enough to produce its own gravity.
It's dense.
Yeah, and although it has an artificial sky and a bubble built around it, and power is required to light up the night-day cycle, which is why the night city is always night, there's no life support system that requires any tech because it has been terraformed to a certain extent. They have special mushrooms that filter the air and various other little tricks that the creators of Midspace use to make it very similar to living on a planet.
Nice.
Okay, so yeah, like Midspace, right? But what is a station in orbital refuse? What does the thing have to be a station?
I mean, that's a great question. With orbital refuse, the way I've been treating space stations, they're certainly not like the space stations we have in the real world, or even space stations in a lot of modern science fiction. To me, a space station in orbital refuse is any sort of large, habitable, artificial structure in space.
Mm.
Okay.
So some of them, like Midspace in particular, Midspace is kind of exceptional in its design and size. There are plenty that are big, like countries, they fit millions of people in them.
Wow.
Okay. And so have us bastards, have we seen other stations? My mind goes straight away to Garcia, but then also to the trash place. What was that place called? It was called...
Right. Oh my God. Wait.
Bartertown.
Okay.
It wasn't Bartertown. It was... where we met Rads. What was that place
Yeah, it
called?
was Prospect Town.
Prospect
Wait,
Town.
so like how many places have we been that were stations and not planets? Or can you be both?
I think it is just the 3 at this point.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Midspace, and then we have Prospect Town.
And Garcia Station.
And Garcia
yeah.
Station.
Oh, and where we found the honey boy.
True, that was also a space station, yeah.
Yeah. And then also the replicant. I think that took place on
That was
station.
a BioLife
A
station.
BioLife station. So can a station be as small as like a Stu's?
Like a gas station.
Like a gas station, yeah.
I
yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
I think by my definition, like they come in like all sizes. Because as well, the synths have artificial planets, which technically you could call space stations by the
Okay.
same definition that Midspace is one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's kind of, can you be a station and a planet at the same time, like Australia?
Which is a country and a continent, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see what you're doing there.
Australia is a space station and a planet.
Please, Dick. Okay. Some respect to our Aussies listeners.
It's just, I kind of expected a little bit more out of you guys tonight, but whatever.
I mean, I'd be willing to say so. I think as well, like with the synthetics, like they have a particular worldview where it's like if you can make a person, then you can make anything. You can make a planet.
I'm over here like, shit, maybe I need to Google what is a planet. Like,
Home is
So
where
they-
the heart is.
They would never even remote if they build an artificial planet, they're not going to call that a space station. They're going to call it a planet. But as well,
Okay.
like, they're like, I am a synthetic being. I'm not a robot.
okay, I looked it up, you guys. The definition of planet is broadly any relatively large natural body heyo, that revolves in an orbit around the sun or around some other star,
Wait,
and
so
that is not
Midspace is
radiating energy from an internal nuclear fusion reaction.
So Midspace is not orbiting a star, whereas the synthetic
That's true.
planets,
Yeah.
the
So
synthetic
Midspace
planets,
is not a planet.
yeah. So even because the synthetic planets, like they've made them themselves, but they do orbit stars.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's one point where actually there's one that's kept in the center of 4 separate stars, I believe it was. There's some fucked up shit in synth space that we haven't seen.
I cannot wait to get into that.
Yeah, me too.
I am excited to get to synth and wraith space.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Midspace, that is an important thing. Although it does have a day-night cycle, it's just dimmers on lights, really. There's no star.
I dig
Okay.
it. I like it. I feel like that's the vibe. That's the vibe. And I mean, what is the purpose of stations? Like, why build a place if you can just colonize a planet?
Well, I mean, what if there's not a planet there? Like the thing in Midspace is there are no stars in the entire like neutral sector there. That's why there's Midspace, there's
Yeah.
Garcia, there's like all the habitable places are all stations because
Fueling hub.
there's no stars to find a planet on. Yeah, even if you could terraform it, like it's just not there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I mean, obviously, our favorite station is Midspace.
It's
To be
Midspace.
fair, I
Yeah.
mean, you know.
Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of people have been asking us questions about Midspace. And Dick hit off like 5 of them in the intro. I was like, the first sentence, he was like, this is how big it is. This is the situation. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, check.
I mean, we could probably go a little bit deeper.
I
into some
want
of
a
those
deeper
points,
dive
though.
into this
We're gonna
stuff.
have to because
Yeah.
that hit me so fast. I was like, wait.
Yes.
Because I'm over here like tech specs, baby. Like, what is the deal with lighting? Like, why?
Yeah.
Where is it? How did it happen? Who did this?
So, I mean, the tech specs of Midspace. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about like what all that sort of looks like and works.
Yes.
So, Midspace is built on like a trash core that generates its gravity.
Love that for her.
Oh shit. Do we
And
know
as
where that
such-
trash came from? Or is this just
Yeah, whose trash is this? Did somebody
is this
litter?
just a is this like in the ocean? There's that kind of whirlpool
It's
of
the
trash.
Fatberg.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically all the stuff that was like
the plastic
here. And
island.
you got to remember that this was built during a war between these 3 systems. So
Okay.
a lot of it was destroyed ships and things like that.
Damn.
Haunted.
There's also,
it's
um,
haunted.
The
haunted.
the shattered wall sort of backs onto Midspace. So you got to
Okay.
imagine the shattered wall used to be longer, but a lot of it is actually just inside Midspace.
Okay.
What? And Trevor complained about coming here.
There's it's really hard to say like what is down there, but most of it has just been compacted into basically like a dense, like metal, rock, plastic blob.
Like when
So
you
that's
roll
the
a ball of
foundation.
tinfoil really long time forever,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
you get like
yeah.
And like, in the center of it, it's got like a hot liquid core, and also like a planet, like our planet.
Whoa.
It has
that was the dumbest thing I've ever said.
has some of those sort of
Accurate, though. It did
things
work.
going on. Then built on top of that, there's like substructures. They've got the sewers that eventually are built up. There's the abandoned train lines. Then on top of that, there's a city. And that city isn't actually built spherically. They only built one side of it, really. So you can imagine there's rings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the center ring, that's where Zuzu was set up. That's where like Midspace started being colonized or recolonized by criminals and gangsters and free spirits of the galaxy. But then as you sort of move out, you get into what is known as the Night City or the Undercity, and it is sort of below, but only sort of, theoretically, really. It is more to sort of when you're stuck into the places where power has not been switched on. Because
You
this thing was
described
built,
it as like the skyscrapers of Mid-City Central, where Zuzu rules, was pointing that way. And then the dark side of the Night City, the skyscrapers are kind of going off in the bottom direction, but are unpowered and unlit and just kind of just reach out into the darkness of space.
yeah, it's sort of like these spiky tendrils.
Yeah. And are they just going in like one axis, or are they going in like out in many different directions? Is it like a straight horizon line differentiating these things?
I mean,
or?
the way of like whenever we've traversed that line, I've always described it as being a cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't really gone any further than that.
I kind
And
of
don't
picture
know.
like a shelf drop off.
In terms of
Yeah.
like the actual geometry and aesthetics and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to like make too big a call until like someone draws something, because
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean? Like it's
Oh. somewhere
like-
somewhere out there, Max Behrens is like,
I can describe
environment?
it as much as I have, but like in terms of like the really detailed, like the geometry and the aesthetic of how that works and what that looks like, it's I really want to see something.
You know what
before
big
I,
vibes it gives me is
commit
the
too much to that.
the kind of ancient legends of Earth being on the back of a turtle. Midspace gives me that kind of vibe of there's
yeah.
that bit, and then there's the waterfall where everything drops off, and then there's a bloody turtle. And that's what the Night City kind of feels like to me.
a
of like,
bloody
it's a
turtle.
bloody turtle underneath a city, or the
I just
the
honestly, the most visual part of it for me has been Night City, because I have legitimately seen every second of the last couple episodes.
yeah. Oh
like
yeah.
the massive shelf drop off, like an Icelandic cliff.
Oh, and then they were dropping down the cliffs of the skyscrapers on their little like
and the
grappling
color
hook
palette,
things.
like
Oh,
so
yeah.
nighttime and like mushrooms.
Well, I
and-
really wanted it to be like that's like kind of almost like the cyberpunk part of Midspace, where it's just always dark and there's like anything that is lit up is DIY. It's like someone has just cracked open a phosphorus container that's lighting up the zone while they're there, or there's the mushrooms. And it's
I
all,
feel like we barely got into Night City, like at all.
No,
We
we're
just-
coming back.
I mean, now that we're friends with Shannon.
So you're talking about lighting. You're talking about how the tech
Yes.
specs of it.
So then we get to the outside, and this is part of why they didn't build the whole thing as a globe, because you end up having this mushroom-shaped thing where there is a structure on the absolute outer limits of the Night City,
okay.
where there's essentially just walls that go right up, way up into the sky,
What?
and that's where the dome is attached. So
Ah.
there's an external dome, and the dome
Okay.
it's not glass, it's not transparent. It's actually made of strong, heavy-duty, easy to repair, reflective surface.
Oh.
Okay.
You can project the sky onto that.
Okay. So inhabitants of Midspace City, Midspace Station, when they look out to the night sky, it's a projection they're seeing. They're not seeing out into space.
Not at all. They're just seeing a twinkly, artificially generated night sky. And if you go into the Night City, you're not even seeing that. You might see the edges of that from central Midspace.
Yeah.
But most of what you're seeing is just darkness, because you're just looking at a wall that's, hundreds and hundreds of meters up in the air that you just could never.
So from the outside looking down on it, what type of shape is someone arriving to Midspace Station seeing?
I think it's
Bowl cut.
It's like a messed up sphere. You can tell that maybe it was gonna be a sphere if they ever finished it properly, but it's not
It
all
looks
the way
like a
done.
jelly. It's a jelly.
Yeah, so it's like,
No wonder you wanted to go there.
I fucking love it. Yeah.
You were like, wonder why I like that so much.
It's the land
Maybe
of
because
my
it looks like
peoples.
me.
Yeah.
So do you think it's safe to say that that's how you see it, Dick?
Lopsided.
That all of that was your idea of what Midspace looks like?
Well, that was my idea of what Midspace looks like.
Because some of you have told us what your idea of what Midspace looks like. I have 2 here. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So Jim from our Discord thinks that Midspace is the architecture in Midspace is a mixture of Terran, Wraith, and Synth, all built on top of each other depending on who controlled it and when. And then Captain Isaac thinks they see it as a human synth kind of mashup, which has been barnacled over kind of like a hive city. Do either of those match up with how you see either of you?
In getting into that, maybe we need to sort of like get into the when and why of Midspace even being built in the first place.
It sounds like we might.
Okay.
There's a history puzzle piece missing here.
Because Midspace, yes, it was a joint effort between the Wraith systems, the Synthetic Army, and the Terran Empire. They all pitched in together to build this thing, and the idea was it was going to be a place where they could work together to end the war.
Yeah.
So they built it during wartime.
And do we know how long the war had
all
been
about
raging at
ending
this
the war.
point, or is it just...
I mean, it had been years, not like, it's not like sort of like a 100-year war or anything. It wasn't like generations. It was just a war that happened.
a few decades type thing?
Oh, no, I think less than that. It's, just a matter of like literally years.
Oh, okay, but just devastating enough that they
it was
wanted
it was intersystem war. It was a war that spanned an entire galaxy.
I mean, if you have a bad war
So it's
for a couple
a big
years,
deal.
that's a minute.
Think about in our world, like the Second World War was for a couple years, wasn't it? But like it's the biggest world event of like the last 100 years. It just is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this, people are still talking about this war 1,000 years ago because it was just that big.
Right.
So many people died. Nobody was untouched by it. The entire shape of the galaxy, the way it is these days, is directly off the back of this war. But Midspace, basically it came at a time where just a few things all just seemed to happen like rapid fire. So the Terrans, they'd already started realizing none of this is worth it, and they started putting up the wall. Which was actually just a series of space stations.
Okay.
Little independent unmanned space stations that were designed to create a huge, just light years wide network of energy shields just to make it impossible for ships to come into their space. They were going to become isolationists.
And so you're saying that the wall is a human Terran built thing, or were they adding to a natural defense that was already there?
Oh no, there was nothing there. The Terrans spent an insane amount of resources, an insane amount of time, and they made this thing. And the Wraiths the Wraiths learned of it.
That sounds like us.
Their spies found out it was happening. The Wraiths are really they have stealth ships. They've got better stealth than everyone else. That's just one of their things.
Yeah.
But that's why the Terrans built it mainly bordering Wraith space. The Wraiths found out about it. They come in on stealth ships and they bombed it all to hell. And they turned it into what is known as the Shattered Wall, which is still semi-impenetrable, but
unless you're Trevor.
Yeah. But it's impenetrable for everyone. It's not just a one-way wall, because the Terrans would have obviously been able to go through it and attack the Wraith and not vice versa. So the Wraith's like, okay, we're going to bomb this thing, and like that kind of makes it fair at least. So that kind of ended the war on that front functionally.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the synths, out of nowhere, the synth, the originator, just started acting differently. No one really sort of knew exactly why, but policies changed very suddenly. The synths suddenly were ready for peace.
Okay.
As all this is happening, like the Wraiths were only really able to be galvanized into one great monolith together by the fact that there was a galactic war happening. So the Wraiths began to splinter back off into their war bands, their smaller groupings.
Okay.
So because of this backdrop, peace talks, it needed to be happening. There need to be treaties. The Terrans obviously kind of took the lead on that sort of thing. That was their thing, but it was a group effort. So all three of them were involved in building, and as such, it does contain, like elements from all three. So like the way like the sort of built as like a metropolis and these cities and stuff is a very Terran thing. But then having it being this fully artificial but terraformed structure that's put in a point in space is more of a sort of a synthetic philosophy.
Hold on
and
a
then
minute.
the Wraiths have got just wild technologies that are more based on their evolutionary growth.
Mm-hmm.
So they incorporate biological artifice into their construction, which is why you have things like these psychic mushrooms and stuff forming part of the life support system, because that's how the Wraiths work their own ships.
But the mushrooms were introduced first by the Wraiths?
I mean, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's very Wraith technology.
So we've got some like structural architecture coming from the synths. We've got some kind of life support stuff coming in from the Wraiths. And then the Terrans, what have they brought to?
They've essentially structured how they thought the society would be put together on there. Because again, the humans, they are very good at going to someone else's planet and saying like, "Hey, we run this now, but don't worry, you can still do your thing."
Yeah,
Okay.
well, that's true. We do that thing.
Yeah.
We do that thing.
Because the Terran Empire isn't made up of entirely human planets. There's a myriad of other species, that have planets
true.
that are that where humans are an absolute minority.
So, like, how long did it take for them to build Midspace, or can you even say that it's done?
Well, it's not done, but it is definitely done to enough of a point that it's usable. Thing is, it was all put together, but by the time it happened, it just kind of drifted off. The war just kind of came to a stalemate. No one really had the drive to actually work together anymore and make Midspace, like the dream that they'd had, happen.
Oh, okay.
And it was just left there unfinished with this massive workforce of hundreds of thousands of workers on there, left sort of sitting around waiting for the next instructions. Eventually, they finished what they could, patched things up, made it livable because they had to be there while it was being worked on. And some of them stayed. I just started squatting in what was like essentially a planet that belonged to them. Obviously, people started coming. You had just like young people who had starships who were able to get there and like, hey, we could forge a new life here. It didn't take long before you've got a big criminal element, and that's ultimately throughout the thousands of almost 1,000 years that it's been there. Most of the time, it has been primarily controlled by the criminal element because they're the ones that have all the money. They've got the money, they got the guns.
Speaking of criminals or whatever, have there ever been any major conflicts in Midspace or between gangs and nations, or how's the peace kept? Like, is there balance, or is there an uneven population of a certain one of the groups?
That's a real interesting question, that one, because I mean, I wouldn't want to set in stone too many past events there because I haven't like written like a robust history of Midspace.
Yeah.
But there definitely there'll be like major conflicts, especially between gangs. I think there must have been periods in the 1,000 years that it's been there where it has been under control of one of the three nations or by other sort of groups.
Yeah. There's also stuff like poking at this. I'm like, we don't want to poke at something that we like don't know yet that we're supposed to find out.
That we might want to play with like later on within Backwater Bastards that I don't want to delve too deep into or reveal too much of, or even just there's certain things I want to keep vague because that way I can use them if I have a really good idea to be able to use them later on.
Ooh.
I want to have like a little bit of blank playing room. So there are aspects of Midspace Station's long. It's been around for 1,000 years, so it's relatively young compared to other colonized planets and stuff. But it's been there for a long time. It's been there since like a time that people don't really remember anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I'm over here like, are you going to tell us if we've discovered 100% of it, or
well, how the peace is kept? I think is an important one, and that's right now. The peace is legitimately being kept by Princess Zuzu, or more so by her right hand synth Dietz, who is basically a criminal enforcer who controls. You could call them a police force, but they're thugs that are sent around. And there's a whole sort of protection money system going on, which you could also just call taxation. But there are armed people that will come, and if you are being too big of a problem, despite it being a lawless station, yeah, you could be ejected from Midspace or just killed, just taken into a back alley and shot. We've seen Dietz do that before.
Yeah, Dietz doesn't really seem like a big law individual, a big fan of laws organized.
I mean, Dietz is definitely much more of a, you're being a problem, I will efficiently end this problem by killing the source of it.
That's very Dietz.
So at the moment, it's, sure, like you can commit whatever crime you want, but if you're like a serial killer, Dietz is definitely going to get you on his radar and have you stopped. It's a safe enough place in the general terms. And like smaller gangs that are like coming in and threatening people and doing stuff, like they won't get away with it very long. Like it's generally people that have an agreement with Zuzu are the only ones who can actually do their really big shady dealings.
Okay. So we have this station run by Zuzu and other gangs spread out across the top and then also the Night City. From the very beginning, what type of aliens or peoples or synths moved here? And, to modern times where we are currently, what type of people are moving here? And what is the opportunities that they're looking to kind of gain from being in this? Because Midspace isn't like a dead pocket of space, right? It's stuck in between three empires. So the only thing that's around it is itself. So, what are the opportunities?
Why do people come here?
Yeah.
Fried tentacle?
Fried tentacle, yes.
That's a potential reason for culture. Like it is, like it's a cool city. It's a wild, bustling metropolis with people from places you've never heard of before. If you grew up in some little planet and you got on board some ship that's going to Midspace, like it could just be like amazing and exciting. It is definitely majority Terran, Synth, and Wraith because it has a lot of history with those three races, like the original groups of people that set up shop there and therefore got a foothold in of those three empires. But there are like uncountable species represented on Midspace.
Okay.
And as far as synths go as well, none of them have anything to do with the synth army. They are all people who have deserted. Same thing with wraiths as well. Like wraiths generally are part of like family groupings, like large, extended, big family groupings. Sometimes a stronger family will take over others and have them under their wing.
Okay.
But anyone that wants to be sort of like fully independent and go out and get outside of that, again, like Midspace would be quite an attractive place to go.
Mm-hmm.
So then technically like nobody here is really legitimately meant to be here. This is kind of like a... Because if the synths are all people who have defected from the synth army, and if the wraiths are all kind of like
runaways,
living on the edge there, and the Terrans, let's be very honest about the Terrans that are here.
They're looking for the quick cash.
I mean, the Terrans are in some way an exception there because the Terrans are very happy to like say us, yes, you're a citizen. Like they'll have people be citizens of their empire because they're an empire. So they love the idea. Like, no, you can go and you can be a Terran in Midspace. You can go somewhere else.
So do the Terrans consider Midspace part of their empire?
Ooh.
Well, no, they do follow a treaty. Like if the Emperor wanted to make a play for Midspace, I mean, what we saw with Zarg Moon, they're not above,
above
trickery.
They're not above it. They're not above like going against what's on the paper, but it's not something that they're doing at the moment.
It ain't a good idea.
Well, there's no real benefit for them in it either, because the war is over. They do have trade routes established.
Yeah, that's true.
With the other areas, so Midspace it's a great place for like private opportunity,
tax shelter.
Yes,
yeah. So like obviously like shady corporations. Again, we've seen BioLife doing their shady shit here.
The fried tentacle people.
It's a very good place if you're an organization and you want to do something that you don't want to be seen to be part of your organization.
So like everything we do at
Midspace,
Backwater LLC.
I mean, we came here looking
for
work though, just to get the next tentacle, right? Like, we weren't.
That's when we were small fish, Daniel. But now look at us. Now we're big. Now we're big.
Well, now
fish.
we're building up an HQ, but we showed up looking at just trying to get a job.
We had dreams.
It's a good place
we
for
came
that,
with our dreams.
Big dreams.
Big dreams.
If you want to get a job done and you live on Midspace, You just go out and you find some idiot fresh off the boat and be like, yeah, okay, I'll pay you to do this job.
Whoa.
Fair enough. I mean, that's where we started.
Yeah, well, yep.
Especially like if that job, potentially means like, coming at odds with Zuzu or upsetting the status quo. Like it's a very liquid population. Who lives on Midspace is constantly changing. People sort of come in. There's a lot of things where maybe there's like a big trade ship and someone's taking a bunch of stuff. Maybe there's a few things they don't want to declare, things that aren't, legal or things that are taxed really heavily.
Sounds like my kind of place where you don't have to really go through customs.
Yeah, so if you want to unload that sort of stuff to someone and make it no longer your problem, Midspace is a perfect place to do that. Say you've got, a whole bunch of like restricted weapons that the Terrans will tax you hard if you take it into their space.
Mm-hmm.
You could sell it, and you could potentially sell it cheap and still be making more money than having to go through the hassle of taking it to the Terran system. So Midspace has got a lot of that sort of thing going on, where it is semi-legitimate trade, but it is all about, tax evasion is a big thing for that sort of place.
Okay, so people are living here for the opportunity, for the hustle, and for the tax evasion. Okay.
Heck yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll go.
I didn't want to do another one. I wanted you to get to ask your one. And then I blanked and it got weird and then I didn't want to make noise and then
I thought we were going to go like one, but no, it's all right.
Did you just do one?
I just did one, yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay. So there's all this stuff going on out here. But does Midspace itself have any kind of political stopping power among the three factions? I guess factions. I guess we could call it that.
The Empires.
Does Midspace get to
on paper,
shoot its shot?
On paper, Midspace is kind of ignored. It's like it's not there. It's not our problem. It's not it's not in our space. And if you guys want to deal with it, I mean, fine, but it's not in your space either, unless you forget. So it has that, it's almost like a sort of a diplomatic immunity kind of thing. If you think again, in the real world, when people they get private islands or...
Well, it reminds me immediately of Iceland during the Cold War. America and Russia met in a certain building in Iceland, which you can see in Reykjavik. Yeah, where they negotiated terms there.
Yeah.
And so,
who was that? Reagan and Khrushchev.
Mm-hmm. So as soon as you mention that, my mind flicks to that and I go, oh, okay, of course. Yeah, so Midspace was built for this negotiation place.
It was specifically built to be like, hey, this isn't anybody's ground. So we'll all happily meet here, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Kind of, and it got a bit big for its boots because okay, well, this is going to be like a city then. It's going to be this big metropolis. We can all send our people there. There'll be millions of people all working together. This is how we end the war and make sure it never happens again. So it was supposed to be this cooperation between these three huge powers, and they just never got it to work. They never really got it off the ground.
Okay. So the inspiration for Midspace, what was the sentiment behind the story, and what were the inspirations for Midspace? From the real world or from the story that you've crafted in your mind that we're still exploring ourselves?
Oh, that's a big one. So I mean, we have just mentioned the whole in the middle neutral zones where parties can talk. As those sorts of stories from real world wars actually definitely inspired a bit, but also the whole pirate radio and international waters kind of phenomenon that they had.
That's such a great story.
Love those.
That sort of thing was definitely a big inspiration. There's literally in Guardians of the Galaxy, Nowhere.
Nowhere is so cool.
That place is played kind of heavily in my my thought of Midspace.
Yeah.
Visually, I've always thought of it as being like quite Blade Runner-y.
Ooh, yeah, I can see that.
I've also imagined a lot of rain on the footpaths because of Blade Runner. Actually, would rain happen in Midspace?
I have to admit, I see it with no rain.
Oh, really? See, I always
Isn't
see
that
it with
bizarre?
rain.
I picture Midspace being kind of dusty, but not deserty.
Not humid?
It's not Tatooine. You know what I'm saying?
It's
on a scale of Blade Runner original to Tatooine, it's absolutely it's not even I don't even want to say it's in the middle. I feel like it's more away from Blade Runner to me than not, but it's not Tatooine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's only 55% over.
Yeah, if we were to go there, right now, we went to Midspace. I think we would find the air to look kind of funny, the atmosphere to be quite weird because there are no environmental factors.
Mm-hmm.
There's no wind. There's no rain. Like these sorts of things don't exist. There could be mists and that sort of thing, especially because there's plant life and stuff going down here. And every now and then there might be like what you could call rain, but it is really sort of condensation falling from off the roof.
I think it's because of Night City for me. Like now that we have Night City, I picture Midspace being brighter. And because Night City for me is so dark, dark blue and black with like.
Well, you remember Midspace? It's all made of metal, but everyone's painted their apartments and their shop fronts and stuff.
It's kind of like a Wild West sort of situation in my mind. Like obviously we painted Dias to be way more Wild West and desert and dirt, and so I don't picture it that way. I do picture it as a metropolis, but I picture like daytime Tokyo or something.
I could buy that. I definitely had quite a bit of Cowboy Bebop as well. Like everything that we do,
I think
Backwater
that's what I'm
Bastards
seeing. Like,
has a bit of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some Cowboy Bebop. Like if Cowboy Bebop had a baby with Trigun, that's what I see Midspace.
Oh, very good.
Do you know what I'm saying though? That's that's where I'm getting the dust from. Like I still see it. I still see it as like a bustling, futuristic city. So that's where the Cowboy Bebop is coming in, and like lots of signage and like buildings that are kind of like there's just so much going on here. But then there's still this element of like hot, even though it's not a desert planet. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. That's just like the vibe.
I feel that, like, because it's, I don't know, like it's this sort of shady cosmopolitan pirate zone. Like it feels like it should be like a little bit. I mean, if not like dusty hot, it should be tropical hot. But like,
I don't picture like heat doesn't overpower my vision of it.
No,
I don't picture it being like miserable hot, but I definitely don't picture Midspace being cold. However, Night City, I picture being cold.
Yeah, I also picture it
not in like a not in an Arctic way or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a snowdrift situation, but I definitely picture. I mean, nighttime anywhere drops the temperature, right? Like darkness. Temperature in the shade.
And then you're sort of asking about like the story elements as well of it, and because really originally my first thought was like, okay, we're starting this new campaign, we're gonna have to build a galaxy.
Yeah,
let's start in the middle of it because that seems to me to be the easiest place. It gives you guys 3 major directions you could go into, these different places to visit. I went from a story point of like, okay, what is if there is like a thing right in the middle of it, what might that be? And again, I don't want to spoil too much of it yet because I feel like it is an ongoing thread, but we have Reese and...
Oh my God, that's the bit that I want to pick at constantly.
Reese and Reese. So there's Captain Reese and there is Reese, the Grey Dragon. And the Grey Dragon to me was always like, that was central to like what Midspace was going to be in our initial story. Okay, you guys, you're going to start somewhere, but by the time we finish our first little story, you are going to have like a cool, unique, weird ship and you're going to be able to go anywhere you want. From that point,
I remember that. I remember years ago. I remember Dick telling us, like, you guys are going to get a car immediately. And we were like, yes! Like, we knew Reese was coming. I mean, that was just episode 1, but we knew Reese was happening. We believed in it.
Yeah, but I also wanted to, I guess because our origins are in playing Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a big thing of like Indiana Jones treasure hunting. You go into dungeons, you know there's a treasure, and you're looking for that treasure. So that's where the idea of like, okay, how can there have been like this ancient treasure on a space station, on an artificial station, which is where more of the whole like it's got built on this trash core.
Right.
That trash core exists from during the war. It exists from pre Midspace's existence. So what kind of trash would be there? What kind of ship would be there? And at that point, it all just started coming together. Like, so this ship is actually as fundamental to the history of Midspace, to the story from all that time ago. And that's where all the things of Captain Reese and all those sort of things started becoming kind of pivotal parts to the creation of Midspace.
Nice.
I can't control myself.
You guys don't really know the sort of the story of Captain Reese all that much, but I feel I've laid enough seeds that Reese was fucking about in this part of the galaxy.
Yes.
And he was doing stuff that had to do with the 3 nations. He had particular artifacts with him.
There's been so many little Easter eggs. And it's killing me. I can't handle it. Like, it's the way we've set this story up in general is so not about Reese. Like, Reese is this huge, incredible tale. And Cleo and Z, like, don't have any knowledge of it. Like, it's not on their radar. They're not pursuing it. But us, the players, are sitting here like, what is Reese's deal? What is the story? There was a statue. What about the egg? What about Reese's body in that synth chamber? And what about Reese the ship? And why was Reese expecting us? Like, how did Reese get into the trash pit? Why was Reese in the trash pit? How the heck does that happen? Like, how long were they there? And I feel like we have to do a different lore dive about Reese one day, but
yeah, those were a lot of questions.
Well, I constantly have Reese questions. Like,
we have to do a separate lore dive on Reese for sure.
I feel like I can answer one of those questions.
See, that's what we get. That's what we
do.
Because
there's
one answer.
There's one that actually has to do with Midspace Station.
Fine.
And that is the how of Reese ending up in that trash pile. And
Wait, is this something that we don't know?
Something you don't know. Oh! But I like to think that it is literally a cosmic fluke, a coincidence. It's just the fact that when they were smushing all this stuff together, Reese, the ship, the Grey Dragon, just happened to be on the outside. That's it.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Like
you know what that's
floating
called? You know what that's
in
called?
space.
What's that called?
A reg.
What?
Because it's a Reese Easter egg.
Oh.
Wait, I fucked it up so badly. It's not a reg. It's a Reester egg. Why am I...
Reester.
Oh, you definitely should have led with that.
Oh, well, it's
Dang
all staying in now. So everyone's going to hear the entire thought process.
Oh my God. It's like right as I said it, I was like, what is that? Why does that feel familiar? And I was like, oh, because it's like negging. And I'm like, that's a bad thing. No, I ruined it. And then I was like, wait, Reester egg, you idiot. You absolute donut.
So that's sort of the origins and the inspirations and all those sorts of things of Midspace, the kind of the tech specs of how it works, what it's made of in a lot of ways.
Lego.
I don't know. That's
but maybe we need to
every time you say that.
But maybe we need to talk a little bit because it's a big old metropolis. You guys have not seen nearly all of it, but you have seen some very big important sections of it.
Oh.
So maybe we can sort of go over those sections and like what we know about them so far and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I think I'd like to go into further detail into the sort of the politics of these zones and the people that live in them and run them. I think more so than we have time to do in this lore dive. So
you're saying we're going to have a part 2 already on a lore dive?
What?
Oh, we're going to have to.
Oh, so
That's
next
fair.
time.
That's fair.
Lore
Midspace is
dive,
big enough
part
for it.
2 about the inhabitants.
There's clearly going to be some stuff missing here, and
Midspace, the place.
We 100% welcome further questions. If this sort of sparks some queries in your mind, hopefully we're going to get to it anyway. But like, by all means, ask us, and we'll get onto it. So Midspace, you guys first arrived
gmail.com.
in
That's us
in the Midspace downtown, basically.
I'm making my way downtown.
That's where we began, right in the thick of it, where there's the biggest spaceports, all the most populated, easy parts of Midspace access. Because basically, if you want to get into Midspace, there are ports, there are portholes on the dome, but all the ones like in the Night City, for example, they're inoperative. They don't open. You just can't fly a ship into them because they're not powered. So you do have to go through Princess Zuzu just to get into Midspace because she controls all those main entrances. So where we started was notably very close. There was Dietz Bar, from which Zuzu's shadier operations are run. Zuzu herself does have like a home and a business front where she can hold court and sort of look a bit more legitimate and be a bit more like, oh, I'm just the mayor. But what you guys have seen is definitely more the shady side. You've seen Dietz's bar. You've seen the sort of little slums outside of that area as well. You've seen the spaceport, and that's all controlled by Zuzu thoroughly. Like that's where her enforcers are actually walking about. But then we've seen the underground, which, I mean, for all intents and purposes, what we've seen of it so far, you could say it's controlled by the bastards.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Are you kidding
like
me?
that.
We are the boss on the map.
We've got a section of space of that
When
is
you
our
go
own.
to a what am I? I can't speak.
Words,
when you
Taylor.
When you go to a Pokemon gym,
Yeah.
we're the guy at the end.
You see yellow. That's us.
That's us. That's not the right.
That's Mission
That wasn't
As I was doing it, I was like, "It's turning
Just
into
Boris
something
being
else."
suspended from a ceiling with rope.
I mean, obviously, you don't have full control of it, but you do have a base there.
Whatever. We
You've
got the
got- you've
green
got-
friend.
You've got the green friend. You've got a
Jordan.
battle train that lets you traverse the underground now.
And Boris deleted all the maps.
He deleted the maps. We're
So
secret.
you guys are, as
So.
of what you've seen of it so far, at least, like, you know, you're kind of in charge of your own destiny.
Obviously.
Heck.
And then we have the Night City, which again we've only scraped the surface of. But the Night City, that's where you go if you do not want to be under Zuzu's thumb. If you've come to Midspace expecting to be truly free, you've set up, you've found a flat, you've got a job, and you realize, oh shit, this is not significantly better. Like if you don't have money and power, if you're not like some sort of like big important criminal, you're not really any more free than if you were on a normal planet. So some
Great.
people who really want to get outside of Zuzu's thumb influence, or maybe people that have burnt bridges as well, the Night City is the place where you can go.
It sounds a lot
Okay.
like us.
Yeah. Sounds like where we're
Just-
going.
Just saying.
Yeah.
So the Night City, we've met the cultists, we've met
Yeah.
What's left of them?
we've met the mushrooms, and we've met Shannon and his revolutionaries.
Yeah, good for him.
So the revolutionaries, they're a minor group, and although they claim to control the Night City, that's
Aw.
Oh.
really they control a city block. You know, they control a chunk of the Night City.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what else is out there either.
That's a
Okay.
bit sad for them.
Yeah.
Well, they only have so many numbers, but they got scouts, they got spies, so like they at least do exert proper control over their section of the Night City.
As opposed
Okay.
to what? Us? Rude.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Boris can only patrol.
Hey, we left Jordan in it.
one track at a time.
We left Jordan in the lair. He's probably shat all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, if someone came in and they weren't ready for him, he would just bite their hands off before they could shoot him. I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, I have a lot of questions about that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I know you can't believe that, but I kind of came with a list. Like, I've got questions about, the stuff we've seen. I've got questions about the stuff we ain't seen,
Mhm.
the stuff we only seen a little bit. And then I've got questions about the place where we're at that we really only saw like one room of. What the heck else is in there with us? And Dick's not going to tell us, but we're going to ask because that's how we work.
Yeah, I mean
And-
the really specific stuff, like what else is around.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to
he's
wait
not
and
going to
see.
tell us. I can tell, but we're going to ask because that's
'Cause
how
that-
we do. Can we get
that's-
advantage? Can we get an answer? No.
That is story that we're in the middle of. So let's not divulge anything too close to the present, too close
Shoot
to
your
where we're
shot.
going.
Shoot your shot. And we're going to have to wait, just like you, till next time. But before we go, it kind of seems like we weren't the only people that brought questions to this.
We've got
yeah.
questions.
And we got
For you.
questions I think that I can answer about
Yeah.
Midspace.
From our friends.
Hey guys, so before I go any further, I know we've got two whole different kinds of content right here on our streaming platforms that
Yeah,
you're
we
listening
do.
to.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know we've got a third kind as well that you can get on Patreon?
What is that third kind?
Third kind
Counters.
is something we like to call sidearm.
Sidearm.
For the most part, that's everything that doesn't really fall into Backwater Bastards story or Backwater Bastards lore. It's not really necessarily particularly Backwater Bastards lore. If you like the sounds of our voices like we do,
Like these sounds.
we can't help but to each other a lot when we get together like this. So there's a
We
lot
can't
of
help
stuff
it.
that we record that just doesn't
Understatement
belong
of the year.
in a normal episode, and that stuff becomes a sidearm. The last episode we did, what did we talk? We talked about this.
It's called Past Life Duck. And
Past Life
we
Duck.
talked about Georgie pie, we talked about frozen foods, we talked about coffee, we talked about ramen noodles, and
I love ramen noodle.
we talked about...
Hey, no. If you want to know what we talked about, you're going to have to listen.
Oh, damn. Okay. That's
It
on
was
Patreon
cool.
right now.
It was cool as heck.
See you there.
The deets are in the notes. It's time for listener questions. It's time for listener questions. So I'm going to read a question from Captain Isaac.
Ooh.
Fair.
Isaac has asked, how big is the known You're blocking it with your name.
Anonymous turtle.
Isaac has asked.
Okay, deep breaths, everyone.
This is the Taylor Garcia just keeps popping up over the words I'm trying to read.
Daniel is a toasted fart.
Well, Isaac asks, how big is the known universe outside the three empires? Do the big three dominate, or are they just big fish in their pond?
Ooh.
That's a pretty sexy question.
I've always referred to as my my map not as the known universe, but actually as the alliance of three worlds. And an easy, what's my tagline there? An uneasy ceasefire between New Terra, E137, and Wraith Moon.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So I guess what I'm trying to say here is the known galaxy extends significantly past the three empires. But that said, this is definitely a space of the universe that is particularly dense in oxygen and water and all the things that the kind of species that live on all these planets that we've been visiting need to survive. And therefore, it is definitely the most densely populated section of the universe. But I do really like the idea of us going and exploring like proper, like not just the outer rim where you got like Dias and Darks and that sort of thing, or Darken, but going all the way outside and going somewhere really foreign. That would be really interesting to do.
Bit scary.
The big three, they are big fish in their ponds, but they definitely, in terms of like organized big civilizations, yeah, they dominate. They are the three main organizations, forces to be reckoned with. Outside of their influence, like, because if you've got Midspace in the middle, there's similar kinds of communities outside as well. And there's all sorts of craziness out there to be found. There are potentially, other entire like species with their own ways of doing things that could actually give one of these empires a run for their money. I mean, you've already come across like the Atolla Medusa, for example, who they operate outside of these three zones, and they sort of go around the outer rim stealing water. At least the atoll that Dr. Z was a part of, stealing water from these planets that aren't being protected by these empires. So imagine a huge configuration of atolls all coming all at once, like a Atolla invasion.
Damn.
That would be something to be really concerned about. So, I don't know. The big three dominate for now in terms of our understanding of the universe so far, but stay tuned. Maybe we'll have a big bad that actually threatens them more than that. That would be fun.
Oh, that is fun. All right, I've got a question from myself.
Wow.
That seems like cheating.
It's not cheating.
Wow.
I wrote it down. So, I want to know, Big Pat, good for him. the greatest shopkeep of all time.
My favorite character.
Big Pat. Now, does she own her own business, or is she a part of a franchise? And how long has she been in business for? I want to know more about Big Pat and her business.
What?
She showed up once in episode 0.
What is her
I want
favorite
to
color?
know everything.
Okay, so
what is her birthday?
let me tell you about Big Pat. Have you ever been?
please. You're saying
Okay,
we
you
need
know
to
you're
do a
on-
separate episode about Big Pat. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. We'll
we
do
need-
a
okay.
Big Pat episode. Yeah,
Big
cool.
Pat episode. Get ready for that, Dick.
Okay, like Big Pat Lore Dive, or just a Big Pat episode,
Both
like
and
an
off.
in character one where I
And-
play Big
and-
Pat for the entirety of the episode.
Yeah, and an origin.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. 3 things. Lock them in.
Let me give you a little bit about the genesis of my idea of Big Pat.
Yes, please.
The voice I took from Monsters Inc.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
you guys
Roz.
guessed that one.
Mm-hmm.
But the sort of the vibe and the essence of her, like by all rights, she probably should have been more like, you know, when you go like rent a car, that's probably the sort of vibe I was going. But more for me, like I was really channeling, you know, definitely in London at least, but like there's like a street and maybe there's like a day market there, and it's kind of like a high street, but it's kind of like a shitty one where all the shops are independent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's always a shop, probably multiple shops, and all they sell is bags.
Yep.
Yep.
They just sell like backpacks and maybe suitcases. Like they just sell, all they sell is cheap bags.
They're
So-
fronts for crims.
Maybe, but like,
Are they?
Definitely.
For
They only
me,
sell
like,
it in
in-
wholesale. They only sell wholesale stuff as well.
but
I
in
just
my
thought
mind,
that was what they liked selling.
well, in my
No,
mind,
you can only buy in
Big Pat's
hundreds.
stall feels a lot like one of those.
Oh.
Okay.
Dang.
With it, I guess with all the connotations that come with that. So if you guys see that as being like a front for something else,
For a
then
crim.
that's probably the
Crim.
vibe that you're getting from Big Pat as well.
Big Pat's a
Nah, Big Pat's not. Big Pat's an angel.
yeah. Way to try and like tarnish our memory.
Yeah, trying to
Dick.
get us. Okay, Big Pat's still Big Pat.
But she owns her own business, at least on paper. Like
Get it?
Nice.
it's her shop that she rents.
Living
she
that
rents like
life.
little cruises and transports.
Heck yeah.
Love to see it.
Love to see it. Big Pat.
Love to
Respect.
see it. Big Pat.
So that's Big Pat. That's what I have to say on the Big Pat subject.
Okay, thank you.
So we know that Big Pat is arguably probably the best part of Midspace and
The greatest being of all time.
the most successful entrepreneur in the galaxy. But
Yes.
speaking of individuals of great stature, we have a question from Bodhi.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Who we freaking
We love.
like.
We
I was
love
trying to
and
be
like.
cool. I was trying to be cool, but
I love
I know
him.
Dan doesn't do
Yeah,
that.
I
So
can't help myself.
we do secretly love, but don't tell. Anyway, Bodhi wants to know, and I also want to know, what are some fast food restaurants / chains on Midspace that we haven't heard about, and what are their signature dishes?
Fuck yeah.
Well,
That's how he asked it.
we haven't actually. I don't think we've visited any fast food chains.
I know, because you guys don't
on
let me
Midspace.
eat. You guys don't let me get any food.
You've had tentacle?
Yeah, that's it though. Like one time, like
that is
once,
it. Yeah.
maybe
Here's
twice.
the thing, though, like the big chains, like the reputable chains from the Three Empires. I mean, the synths probably don't have fast food chains now I think about it, but they're not going to be on Midspace, are they? Like they can't be seen to be operating in a tax haven like that. It's not a good look when you're a corporation.
Oh.
So there's
So
no chains.
So there's knockoff versions.
Oh,
It's like little chocolate.
Or just like
McGrondles.
you know how like and then you get like everything CFC or whatever instead of
Yes.
KFC. Or like TFC, like it's every other kind of fried chicken that.
Okay, so it's just London. It's just London streets then, because that's all you ever see when you're walking around London is like the Colonel's Kentucky chicken.
It's not Taco Bell. It's Taco Smell.
Yeah,
So you got to imagine like was it Fat Burger? It was called
fat beasts.
Fat
We
Beast.
have
Fat Beast.
Beasts.
Fat Burger's a
Fat
real world
Beast.
thing. So Fat Beast. There is Chonk Beast.
Mm.
There's Lard Beast. There's Fat Bast.
I'm sensing a pattern.
There's all these little like knockoff things that have like the same color configurations, like almost the same logo. They sell similar products, but they're not really Fat Beast.
Does that mean there's a Benjamin's ripoff somewhere on Midspace?
Called Bingo Mins.
Ah,
Mm,
Bingo Man.
okay.
Do you think Z would have a real problem with bingo
Yes.
men selling merchandise, like
Yeah.
knockoff merchandise?
What if
Big
Z
problem.
hasn't seen that yet, and then one day,
Oh, I imagine that Z hasn't seen it yet
because we would have heard.
because Z would have gone to shut it down.
That's going to be an arc. Watch, we're going to have to
Yeah.
blow up that bingo man's.
Yeah.
Bingo man.
We
This is-
cannot suffer the witch to live.
This is sacrilege. They are destroying the honorable reputation of the Bangamans.
Yeah,
With
here we
what?
go.
Their desire for money? For power? I will destroy it!
But
You
then
heard it
what
here
if
first.
what if it turns out that the person that started it, they were a legitimate Benjamin's franchise owner.
And
Well,
what?
I'd
What's
have
their
to roleplay that.
excuse?
We'd have to play the entire episode.
And they wanted to set up on Midspace, and they got so close, and then like Benjamin's head office were like, no, you cannot build one on Midspace.
Well, I'd need that revealed to me in the moment of high drama to understand it.
And who knows how we'll respond to that.
Yeah.
Depends on if we've eaten or not.
But yeah, I mean, definitely Midspace has much more of a like independent economy. So there's a lot more like street markets. There's a lot more like food is something that you get like from like a pop-up stand or from a market. You know, there might be restaurants, especially if you sort of get to sort of the higher society. You've got people like Randy and stuff who know all about the actual, the hidden underground restaurants of Midspace.
Okay.
But I think it's not really a fast food chain kind of place, but there'll be a lot of fast food.
I
Good.
love it. Lots of,
Good.
I mean, we've come across a lot of fried stuff because that's, I guess, the bastards' favorites.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I
Lots
think
of,
we know. I think we know about that. Sauce
Street
and
food
fries.
vendors. I love it.
I'm also interested in like insectoid treats, probably.
Crunchy and high in protein.
Like something, but like different textures, rare and exotic fruits from faraway galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's got to be very special if you're from somewhere like Dias.
Because you wouldn't be getting water-based stuff. Like you're getting a lot of dehydrates, a lot of mystery packet lifted from a wreckage, stolen from a train.
Midspace is definitely, if nothing else, it is a place where anything you want, if you got enough money, you can have it.
Oh, and you know what? We kind of have money now. We kind of do.
We do.
And
Or-
like, I don't think you have any wants that are too exotic that you couldn't afford them either.
Really? Well, that's bold of you to say.
So I guess I should field this one. It's from Waco.
Ooh.
Ooh.
This one is directed directly to me anyway. Waco says, I'm interested in the meta. I'm curious if Dickie used any tools from other game systems to create the station. If he didn't, how would he feel about space station generating tools? The mothership module, A Pound of Flesh, contains many space station generating tools, from physical design to potential plots. Has he ever read it? I will immediately start with, I've not read it.
Oh.
I legitimately, I don't know much at all about Mothership.
Something we need to try.
Yes.
Definitely haven't dug into modules. I didn't use any kind of tools for it. I basically, because the way I treat it is just as a setting. So I just like, okay, this is basically a city in space. I don't need to worry too much more about how it works beyond like lore stuff. So
I
yeah,
need
there's
to know.
not a lot
I
of
need to know
there's-
about this.
There's not a lot of game system in how I've created my space, not my space, and how I've created Midspace.
MySpace.
I'm never going to be able to unhear that now.
Do not cut that.
Yeah.
I may need to give it some stats and stuff if it actually comes into a combat situation or if messing with the infrastructure or that sort of thing, but it hasn't come up yet, so I haven't generated anything like that.
For the day that we get mad enough to kill Midspace,
Yeah.
you never know. Just wait. That'll probably be the episode where we find out that there's a fake Begamans.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like I am very keen to like dig into particularly systems that are related or similar to us.
Yeah.
I just this is so much time in the day, so many pounds I can spend on books.
That's moving to the top of the list.
Yeah, I think Mothership's probably one I should check out. I mean, I don't even really I don't know Starjammer.
Spell
All right, and then-
Spelljammer.
Spelljammer.
And then we have
I don't even know what it's called.
And then we have a last question from Jim. Jim says, my joke question. Is there a single small vent port accessible via a trench that a starship could maybe shoot and destroy all of Midspace Station?
That's crazy. When has that ever happened?
That's no moon.
That would never. Yeah, of course it's not a moon, Jim.
So I've gone out of my way to make sure Midspace doesn't look like the Death Star, because it's like a man-made, like moon-sized, like planet city thing. It's all like metal chrome and all that sort of thing. Like, it'd be very easy to see how it could be Death Star. I hope I've done a good enough job of distinguishing it from that sort of design. I mean, obviously, it being an incomplete sphere is another thing that has in common with the Death Star.
I feel like you've done a good enough job, because the Death Star to me feels like the inside of a hospital.
Honestly, I've never even thought about the idea of like someone trying to destroy Midspace until today, which is bizarre that it didn't even really occur to me.
Now you're feeling a little stressed.
And now, like we've got Waco's question where I'm sort of thinking about what sort of defenses does it have to stop it from being? Because basically, if you were to pop it like a bubble, the whole thing's going to go inside out, isn't it? Like that's
not immediately what I thought, but okay.
Well, I don't know. I don't think space actually works that way. I think that's a bit of an urban myth, or maybe a cosmic myth. But regardless, if someone were to try and destroy Midspace, that would be a problem for millions of people. It's definitely like another sort of what could be, I say fun plot, but like a quite an alarming plot, actually.
Yeah.
It would take a lot to destroy something as big as Midspace. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that for it to have been there for 1,000 years and not have been destroyed, it's got to be at least sort of pretty good at keeping itself alive and operating.
Well, now we're here.
So you drop a big ass bomb on it, that section just gets sort of closed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pressurized thing that really looks after itself. And it is, again, like it's been terraformed, so it does operate somewhat like an actual planet.
Awesome.
So no easy port. So guys, did you learn anything new here? Is there anything you can't wait to find out when we move into the population, the inhabitants, and the political structures of Midspace?
I want to know about the fashions. I'm definitely going to have some questions about the looks that the different peoples are going to be wearing. I'm looking forward to learning about the peoples of Midspace for sure, and the inhabitants.
I definitely have questions. I think we know that I have questions. I have a lot of questions. And no, they're not just about Reese, but at least 38% of them are.
Only 38% though.
That was not a good number. I take it back. It's 89. But yeah, no, I have questions. I have questions about the zones and about who is in the zones. And I know that I probably can't have all of those questions answered, because we're probably going to have to find out. Because, I mean, Midspace is big, right? That's what we learned today. That's above all else. We've learned that Midspace is big. It is the place. Midspace is the place. It's where the action is happening. Okay. And there's a lot of different individuals hiding out.
Well, that's it. The more that you haven't already seen that I give to you in the lore dump, the less I can surprise you with in the moment. So
exactly. So maybe
I think like broad strokes I can give you new stuff, but I think we are mostly going to stick to areas that we have trodden so far.
Yeah, no gray areas. You hear that? Yeah.
But yes, that's all coming on the next lore dump. That's going to be sticking to schedule, I would say, in a fortnight's time if you're listening to this live.
Yes.
And that is going to be Midspace Part 2, The Inhabitants.
Oh, I look forward to it. All right. And next week, we will be joining you again with another episode.
Yeah, and come in for that, because we have just rounded off an entire story arc. We have what could be known as perhaps the Atola Saga.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh.
Including, of course, Z-Day. But also,
we were not ready for that jelly.
We went with the One True Leader and the Mushrooms and just generally all the psychic forces at play on Midspace Station. So I think we're about ready for something different and new. So you're going to have to pop in for the next episode to see what that's going to be. But until then, have an absolutely wonderful time. Thank you for listening, and bye.
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 Tune in next time for another edge of your seat adventure in space with the Backwater Bastards.
If you enjoy listening, but also have eyes, check out our Instagram, where we post drawings, illustrations, character art from our adventures. Backwater_Bastards. Check out our Instagram on Instagram.
I reckon if we go that way, if we take a left, continue for 5 minutes, we might be able to find Pat.
Pat?
Pat. Is that the right direction there for Pat?
Nah. I mean, we could find Pat, but
I'm pretty sure it's just walk down this way for a long time and then we find Pat.
but what about Flat Beast?
All right, just a quick detour.
Hey, do you have any credits?
Dick's got it.
Hard to say with a straight face. Flat beast.
Flat
All right.
Beast.
Let's call it there then.
Flat Beast. Flat Beast. Flat Beast.